First Contact Protocol. Dr. Sarah Chen stood frozen in the doorway of her quantum computing lab at CERN, her coffee cup suspended halfway to her lips. The device wasn't supposed to be there, sleek, metallic, and humming with an energy signature unlike anything she'd ever encountered. Its surface rippled like liquid mercury, but maintained a perfect geometric form that defied traditional physics. "Professor Williams," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "you need to see this." The device had appeared sometime during the facility's mandatory evacuation, ordered after their sensors detected an anomalous energy surge in the upper atmosphere. The official story was a solar flare, but Sarah had seen the classified readings. Whatever had visited Earth's orbit wasn't natural. James Williams, her mentor and the head of CERN's Quantum Research Division, appeared beside her. His usually immaculate lab coat was wrinkled, evidence of the all-nighter he pulled analyzing the atmospheric data. "Good Lord," he whispered, approaching the device with the cautious reverence of a man who'd spent 40 years studying the impossible. "It's not one of ours," Sarah stated unnecessarily. "Nothing human-made looked like this." The device sat precisely in the center of their main quantum computer array, interfacing somehow with their systems despite having no visible connections. "No," James agreed, pulling out his specially modified phone to take readings. "And if I'm not mistaken, it's processing data at a rate that makes our best quantum computers look like pocket calculators." Before Sarah could respond, every screen in the lab flickered to life. Streams of complex equations and diagrams flowed across them, too fast to read but clearly showing technological concepts far beyond current human understanding. "It's teaching us," Sarah breathed, her scientific mind already beginning to grasp the implications of what she was seeing. "They left it here on purpose." The they in question had made themselves known 6 hours earlier, when a massive ship briefly appeared in Earth's orbit. The worldwide panic had lasted exactly 37 minutes, the time it took for the vessel to transmit a simple message in every known human language. "We are the Kalari. We come to observe. Fear not." Then they had vanished, leaving the world's governments scrambling to maintain order and explain what had happened. But they hadn't just observed, Sarah realized. They had left something behind. James was already making calls, his voice tense with excitement and concern. The lab would soon be swarming with officials from every major world power. But for now, it was just the two of them, watching as humanity's first alien artifact continued to pour out knowledge that would change everything. "Wait," Sarah said suddenly, pointing to a recurring pattern in the data stream. "That's not just theoretical physics. Those are engineering schematics." She leaned closer, her eyes widening. "James, I think it's showing us how to build something." James nodded grimly. "The question is, did they leave this here to help us? Or did they make a mistake that could get us all killed?" That question would haunt them in the months to come, as humanity began to understand exactly what the Kalari had left behind. The device wasn't just a quantum computer. It was a key to understanding the fundamental forces of the universe in ways that would revolutionize human technology. But with that knowledge came power, and with power came responsibility. As Sarah and James led the international team assembled to study the device, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, tested. The Kalari's gift seemed too perfectly tailored to human understanding, too precisely calibrated to accelerate their technological development in specific ways. What they didn't know, couldn't know, was that high above Earth, cloaked from all human detection, a Kalari observation post continued to monitor their progress. Inside, two beings engaged in a conversation that would have chilled Sarah to her core had she heard it. "They've already begun to understand the basic principles," the junior observer noted, their multifaceted eyes shifting through shades of blue. "Far faster than predicted." The senior observer's crystalline form pulsed with concerned colors. "And the Drachnid scout ships. 3 detected at the edge of the system. They'll find this world soon enough. Then we must hope these humans are as resourceful as our studies suggest. They'll need to be, if they're to survive what's coming. Back on Earth, Sarah Chen made her first breakthrough in understanding the device's core principles. As she excitedly explained her findings to James, neither of them realized they had just taken the first step toward transforming their world's destiny. And with it, the fate of the galaxy itself. The Kailari's gift would prove to be both salvation and catalyst, but whether it would lead to humanity's ascension or destruction remained to be seen. One thing was certain: the human race would never be the same again. The learning curve. 6 months after the Kailari's visit, the International Quantum Research Initiative, IQRI, had transformed CERN's modest quantum computing lab into humanity's most advanced research facility. Scientists from 37 nations worked in seamless rotation, their previous rivalries forgotten in the face of what many considered the greatest scientific opportunity in human history. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't left the facility for more than a few hours at a time since that first day. The dark circles under her eyes testified to countless sleepless nights, but her mind remained sharp as she led the morning briefing. The device isn't just showing us quantum mechanics, she explained to the assembled team, her hands moving animatedly as she spoke. It's teaching us how to manipulate the fabric of space-time itself. What we're seeing here, it's beyond theoretical physics. It's practical application. Professor Williams, looking equally exhausted but energized, pulled up a holographic display, technology reverse-engineered from the device's teachings just 2 months earlier. We've confirmed Sarah's findings. The mathematical models suggest we could achieve faster-than-light travel within 5 years, not the 50 we initially estimated. The room erupted in excited murmurs, but they were interrupted by Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their head of astronomical monitoring. Her face was ashen as she burst into the conference room. "We have a situation," she announced, pulling up her own data feed. "The Deep Space Array just picked up something. Multiple somethings at the edge of our solar system." The holographic display shifted to show a cluster of objects moving at impossible speeds. Their energy signatures were unlike anything they'd seen before, except in the Kailari device's databanks. "They're ships," Sarah realized, her throat tightening. "And they're not Kailari." The objects were darker, more angular than the smooth, Mercury-like Kailari vessel they'd briefly observed. These ships moved like predators, their formation suggesting military precision. "How long?" James asked, already reaching for his secure phone. "At their current velocity, 3 months before they reach Earth orbit," Yuki replied. "But that's assuming they maintain their current speed. The readings suggest they're capable of much faster travel." Sarah turned back to the device's data stream, which had been running continuously since its arrival. "It's not a coincidence," she said slowly. "Look at the information it's been feeding us lately. Propulsion systems, energy shielding, material science far beyond anything we've seen before. It's not just teaching us physics. It's teaching us how to defend ourselves," James finished, his expression grim. The Kailari knew they were coming. The next 2 months saw humanity advance technologically at a pace that would have seemed impossible before. The device's teachings were implemented across every major industrial sector. Traditional manufacturing plants were retrofitted with matter replication technology. The first antimatter power plant went online in record time. But it was the military applications that saw the most dramatic developments. The world's governments, for once united in purpose, poured resources into developing defensive capabilities. The first orbital defense platform was already under construction, using principles derived from the device's databanks. Sarah found herself working closely with military scientists, including Colonel Marcus Hayes of the newly formed United Earth Defense Force. The colonel brought a practical perspective to their theoretical work, helping translate the device's teachings into viable defensive systems. "The energy shield configurations are impressive," Hayes remarked one evening, reviewing their latest tests. "But something's been bothering me about all this. The device, it's not just giving us technology, it's showing us how to improve it, adapt it." Sarah nodded, understanding. "It's like it knows how humans think, how we approach problems. The information is presented in exactly the way we need to not just copy it, but innovate, which means the Keeleri studied us thoroughly before making contact. Hayes concluded. They knew what we'd do with this knowledge. Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Yuki's voice came over the intercom, tense but controlled. All senior staff to the monitoring station. Now. The assembled team watched in horror as their enhanced sensors showed 3 of the unknown ships suddenly accelerate, breaking away from the main fleet. Their new trajectory. Direct course to Earth. Time to arrival, Hayes demanded. Less than 48 hours, Yuki replied. Sarah looked at the quantum device, still steadily streaming data. Its output had changed, showing new schematics, new possibilities. They're coming to test us, she realized. To see what we've learned, what we've built. James stepped forward, his voice steady despite the tension. Then let's show them humanity's been paying attention in class. As emergency protocols activated worldwide and humanity's first space-capable warships moved into defensive positions, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if this was exactly what the Keeleri had planned. They had given humanity the tools to advance, but it was human ingenuity that had transformed those tools into something unprecedented. The next 48 hours would prove whether that transformation was enough to face what was coming. As Sarah returned to her work with renewed urgency, she realized humanity's first real test was about to begin, and the entire species would be graded on a curve none of them fully understood. The Nemesis arrives. The first shot in humanity's first interstellar war wasn't fired by either side. Instead, it came from an automated defense platform that had been programmed to respond to any unauthorized quantum space distortions within Luna's orbit. The platform's AI recognized the incoming tear in spacetime and responded according to its protocols, launching a quantum-enhanced missile at the precise spot where the Drachnid scout ship materialized. The resulting explosion lit up Earth's night sky like a second moon. Direct hit, Colonel Hayes announced from the HFY's new command center, his voice carrying a mix of pride and apprehension. The quantum warhead performed exactly as designed. Dr. Sarah Chen studied the sensor readings, her expression troubled. That was too easy. They weren't expecting any resistance at all, much less quantum-based weapons. Their mistake, Hayes replied, but his satisfaction was short-lived. New alarms blared as 2 more spatial distortions appeared, these much larger than the first. The vessels that emerged were massive, their dark hulls teeming to absorb both light and sensor scans. They were roughly pyramidal in shape, with surfaces that appeared to shift and change like oil on water. But unlike the Keeleri's smooth, almost organic designs, these ships bristled with obvious weapons arrays. This is Commander Vexthor of the Drachnid Empire. A voice boomed through every communication device on Earth, speaking perfect English. Your primitive defense measures have claimed the life of an Imperial scout. This offense will not go unpunished. Professor Williams, who had been quietly analyzing the sensor data, suddenly straightened. Sarah, look at their shield configurations. They're using a base-level quantum field, similar to what the device first taught us. Sarah's eyes widened as she understood. They think we're still at that stage. They don't know how far we've come. The Drachnid commander continued, his tone dripping with contempt. Submit to Imperial authority now, and your species may yet survive as servants. Resist, and he never finished the threat. At that moment, humanity's first true warship, the UES Prometheus, dropped its experimental cloaking field directly above the Drachnid vessels. The ship was smaller than the alien craft, but its design represented 2 months of humanity's best minds improving upon the Keeleri's teachings. This is Captain Diana Martins of the United Earth ship Prometheus. A new voice cut through the communications. We reject your terms. Here are ours. Leave our system immediately, or we will demonstrate exactly how primitive we aren't. The Drachnid ships responded by opening fire, their energy weapons powerful enough to boil oceans. But the Prometheus's shields, based on principles far beyond what the device had initially taught, held firm. The human vessel's counterstrike was devastating, not just because of its power, but because of its nature. Multiple quantum cascade hits confirmed, Hayes reported, watching the battle unfold. Their shields are calibrated for standard energy weapons. They have no defense against our modifications. The Drachnid ships attempted to regroup, their weapons switching configurations rapidly as they try to adapt. But humanity had spent months preparing for this moment, and the Prometheus was not alone. From hidden positions around Earth's orbit, a dozen smaller vessels decloaked, each armed with weapons that existed only in theoretical physics papers 6 months ago. Fascinating, James muttered, watching the sensor feeds. They're technologically superior in almost every way, but they're inflexible. They use their quantum technology the same way they have for probably centuries. They never thought to improve it. Sarah nodded, understanding dawning. Because they didn't have to. They were always the strongest, so they never needed to innovate. But humans never stopped trying to make things better, Hayes finished. Or in this case, more effective at blowing stuff up. The battle lasted less than 15 minutes. When it was over, one Drachnid ship was an expanding cloud of quantum-disrupted particles, while the other had retreated through a hastily generated wormhole, its hull scared and systems failing. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. She turned to the quantum device, which was displaying new information. Detailed scans of the Drachnid ships taken during the battle, highlighting weaknesses and suggesting improvements to Earth's defenses. "They'll be back," she said quietly. "And next time, they'll be ready for what we showed them today." "Good," Hayes replied, surprising her. "Because we'll have something new ready for them. Something they haven't seen before. Something they can't imagine. Because they don't think the way we do." Sarah looked around the command center, at humans from every nation working together, already analyzing the battle data and proposing improvements. The Kailari's gift had given them the tools, but humanity's greatest strength wasn't the technology itself. It was their drive to constantly improve it, to find new applications, to think beyond the obvious. As the first reports of the battle reached the public, celebrations broke out worldwide. Humanity had faced its first alien threat and emerged victorious. But in the IQRI facility, the work continued, because they all knew the real war hadn't even begun yet. The quantum device's display shifted again, showing what appeared to be tactical data about the larger Drachnid fleet still approaching. Sarah studied it carefully, her mind already racing with new possibilities. The Drachnid Empire had just learned a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity. Soon, they would learn an even harder one. When humans are backed into a corner, they don't just fight back. They'd revolutionize the very nature of fighting itself. Evolution of war. 3 weeks after humanity's first victory over the Drachnid Empire, Earth had become a fortress unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The quantum device's data stream had shifted again, providing insights into defensive systems that even the Kailari themselves had never implemented. But it was humanity's interpretation of this data that truly set them apart. "They're approaching in standard conquest formation," Dr. Yuki Tanaka reported, her hands dancing over the holographic display. The main Drachnid fleet, 50 ships strong, had just crossed Mars' orbit. But something's different. Their shield configurations are completely new. Dr. Sarah Chen nodded grimly. "They learned from last time. They've adapted their quantum fields to counter our weapons." She turned to Colonel Hayes, who was coordinating with defense forces worldwide. "Good thing those aren't the weapons we're using anymore." The past 3 weeks had seen humanity's greatest minds working around the clock, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible with quantum technology. The Prometheus had been retrofitted with systems that made its original specifications look primitive by comparison. But the real innovation lay in what they called the quantum web, a network of interconnected satellites that could do something the Drachnid Empire would never expect. "They're launching their first wave," Hayes announced. 30 smaller ships, probably expecting to overwhelm our defenses through sheer numbers. Professor Williams smiled for the first time in days. They still think in such linear terms. Sarah, shall we show them how humans wage war? Sarah nodded and gave the command that would change the nature of space combat forever. Initiate Protocol Mobius. The quantum web activated. To an outside observer, nothing seemed to happen at first. The Drachnid ships continued their advance, weapons charged and shields at maximum. Then, space itself began to fold. The principle was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to overwhelm the superior Drachnid shields, humanity had found a way to make them irrelevant. The quantum web created localized pockets of warped spacetime, effectively creating thousands of micro-universes that existed for fractions of a second. The Drachnid ships found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't hit, in spaces that shouldn't exist. Multiple direct hits, Hayes reported, watching as the first wave of Drachnid ships tried desperately to adapt to a form of warfare they had never encountered. Their shields are useless against localized reality manipulation. Sarah watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and concern. The quantum web was working better than they had hoped, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The Drachnid Empire had conquered countless civilizations. Surely they had contingency plans. Her suspicion proved correct when the remaining Drachnid ships suddenly changed formation. Their hulls began to shimmer with a new kind of energy, one that made the quantum sensors spike wildly. They're attempting to merge their shield matrices, James announced, his voice tense. If they succeed, they'll create a quantum singularity that could tear apart our entire defense network. But once again, humanity's greatest strength proved to be its ability to adapt on the fly. Captain Martinez, commanding a fleet of 20 Earth ships that had been hiding in the quantum fold, saw the opportunity in the Drachnid's desperate gambit. They're linking their ship's quantum fields, she transmitted to the command center. That means they're all operating on the same frequency. Permission to execute Protocol Prometheus. Sarah and James exchanged glances. Protocol Prometheus was theoretical, untested. A weapon so powerful they had been afraid to even simulate it. But facing a quantum singularity, they had little choice. Do it, Hayes ordered. The Earth fleet emerged from their quantum fold in perfect synchronization. Each ship activated a specially modified quantum field that, instead of protecting them, reached out to interface with the Drachnid's merged shields. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a virus spreading through a network, human-designed quantum algorithms began to rewrite the very fabric of the Drachnid's defensive systems. Their shields didn't fail. They turned inward, trapping the alien ships in bubbles of their own warped spacetime. Quantum lockdown successful, Martins reported. 23 enemy ships contained. The rest are retreating. The command center erupted in cheers, but Sarah's attention was drawn to the quantum device. Its display had changed again, showing what appeared to be communication protocols. And for the first time, she understood its true purpose. It was never just about giving us technology, she said quietly to James. The Kelari weren't just helping us defend ourselves. They were teaching us how to change the way the galaxy thinks about warfare itself. James nodded slowly. The Drachnid Empire has ruled through fear and superior technology for millennia. But they never imagined someone would come along and completely reinvent how that technology could be used. As the remaining Drachnid ships fled the solar system, humanity began to understand its new place in the galaxy. They had not just survived their first major interstellar battle, they had revolutionized the very nature of space combat. The quantum device pulsed with what almost seemed like approval, its data stream now showing something new. Star charts, diplomatic protocols, and trade routes. The message was clear. Humanity was ready for the next step. The question was the galaxy ready for humanity? The human factor. The Kelari observation post dropped its cloak for the first time in 8 months, appearing in high Earth orbit like a shimmering cascade of liquid starlight. This time, there was no panic on Earth, only a quiet anticipation as humanity prepared to meet their silent benefactors face to face. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the new Global Assembly Chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching Kylari vessel. Beside her, Professor Williams and Colonel Hayes watched as Captain Martinez's fleet took up escort positions around the alien ship. The quantum device, now integrated into Earth's central defense network, hummed with a new frequency. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," Dr. Tanaka announced. "But it's not just the Kylari. We're picking up signals from everywhere." The holographic displays shifted, showing dozens of ships dropping out of quantum space around the solar system. But these weren't Drachnid warships. Each vessel was unique, representing different species and civilizations from across the galaxy. "The Galactic Assembly," James breathed, recognizing the ships from the quantum device's recent data streams. "They've come to witness." The Kylari's message was brief but clear. "Humanity has passed the trial. The galaxy awaits your voice." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she finally understood. It was never about just defending ourselves, was it? This was an audition. A new hologram materialized in the chamber, a Kylari representative, their crystalline form refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Behind them stood representatives from a dozen other species, including, surprisingly, a Drachnid. For 10,000 cycles, the Kylari began, their voice resonating with harmonic undertones. The Drachnid Empire has maintained order through force. Many believed this was the natural way of things. We saw another possibility. The Drachnid representative stepped forward. Unlike the commander they had faced in battle, this one's bearing was diplomatic, almost humble. "Our empire has ruled through technological superiority and military might. In less than one of your years, humanity has shown us the fundamental flaw in this approach. You gave us the tools to fight them," Hayes said, understanding dawning. "But we did something you didn't expect, didn't we?" The Kylari's form shifted to a shade of what might have been amusement. "We gave you the basic principles of quantum technology. In 8 months, you advanced it beyond what most species achieve in centuries. But more importantly, you showed the galaxy something it desperately needed to see. That technology alone isn't enough," Sarah finished. "It's how you use it that matters." "Precisely," the Kylari confirmed. The Drachnid Empire's strength was based on using superior technology to dominate. Humanity took that same technology and revolutionized it, found applications no other species had considered. You turned weapons into tools of creation, defensive systems into means of communication. The diplomatic chamber filled with new holograms, demonstrations of how humanity had adapted the quantum technology. The orbital defense platforms that could also serve as deep space observation posts. The quantum communication network that could link minds across vast distances. The terraforming projects already beginning on Mars, using modified versions of the quantum weapons technology. In defeating the Empire's military, the Drachnid representative acknowledged, "You also defeated our way of thinking. Our council has voted for reform. The age of conquest is over." Professor Williams stepped forward. "And what role do you see humanity playing in this new age?" The assembled alien representatives shared what might have been the galactic equivalent of a knowing look. The Kylari spoke again. "We believe humanity's unique perspective, your drive to innovate, your ability to see beyond conventional limitations, is exactly what the galaxy needs. We propose Earth become the center for a new galactic research and development initiative." Sarah looked at the quantum device, understanding its true purpose at last. "You didn't just give us a gift. You gave the galaxy a gift. Us." The implications were staggering. Humanity, in less than a year, had gone from a pre-FTL civilization to a species that would help guide the technological and cultural development of an entire galaxy, not through conquest or dominance, but through innovation and collaboration. "There will be challenges," the Kylari warned. "Many species still cling to old ways of thinking. Some will resist change." "Good," Hayes replied with a smile. Humans work best when faced with a challenge. As the formal diplomatic proceedings began, Sarah returned to her lab, where it had all started. The quantum device was displaying yet another stream of data, but now she recognized it wasn't just giving them information. It was asking questions, seeking humanity's perspective on problems that had puzzled other species for millennia. She began to work, her mind already racing with new possibilities. Around Earth, quantum engineering facilities were adapting alien technology in ways its original creators had never imagined. Ships were being designed that could explore not just space, but the nature of reality itself. And in laboratories across the planet, humans were doing what they did best, asking what if and why not. The Kylari's gift had given humanity the stars, but humanity's gift to the galaxy would be something far more valuable. A new way of thinking, a drive to innovate, and the understanding that the greatest power lies not in the strength of your weapons, but in the ability to imagine something better. As Sarah looked out her window at the assembled alien ships in orbit, she smiled. The next chapter of human history was beginning, and it promised to be more extraordinary than anyone, human or alien, could have imagined.